Man, I hated this movie so much, I actually found myself falling in love with it. We're getting married next Tuesday. Would you like to come to the wedding? What's happened is I've gone to dinner. Well, we've all gone to dinner. This movie isn't just for me. I shouldn't be so selfish. We have all gone to dinner at James Wan's house. And he's served us a casserole. And we're like, oh, well, I trust you. You've done some good stuff in the past, or at least some, stuff worthy where I'm pretty sure like the ingredients in this aren't going to be fingernails and, racket balls or whatever. So you start eating James Wan's casserole and you're kind of looking at him like, thanks, James. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. And I remember even watching the movie, I'm kind of like, man, James Wan kills it. I don't really think of him as one of like my favorite directors, but he's done enough where I ought to give him his due, And then, I'm eating his casserole and eating the casserole, and I'm like, I can taste some saw in here. And he's like, yeah, that's old family recipe. We use that forever. And I'm like, and Insidious. There's a bit of Insidious in here as well. And he's like, you of course, what are you, dumb? The two main ingredients here are Saw and Insidious. And I'm like, yeah, but there's like a hint of The Grudge. Not Ju-On The Grudge or the sequel to that, but the American remake of Ju-On Grudge, but not the remake of the American, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed. Anyways, so you're eating James's casserole and you're watching this movie and you're like, I'm not sure if I like this or not. I mean, I'm grateful to have sustenance and it's cool James made this for me and all, but ugh. And you're like, you know what, James, there's like a zesty tang in here that I can't quite put my finger on. And he's like, I can't tell you what that is until like the hour and 20-minute mark. And I'm like, all right, James, but if it's human blood, I'm going to be very upset. So I'm eating James's casserole, and I'm kind of trying to dissect it and be like a food critic about it. Okay, yes. There's a hint of Darkman in here, James. I like that. That's bold of you. How daring. Like, a bunch of it's just so cheesy and corny. Like, people will say something dramatic and lightning strike will happen in the background. Seriously. And it's like, well, I guess maybe he's trying to do like a cheesy Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of thing, but I mean, the dude who does Saw and does a movie like Saw, if he's now doing a parody of himself, I'm way confused. And sure enough, after eating a good belly full of James's casserole, he lays this big surprise on you in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 style. You're like, you bastard. So I can't really get into the spoiler because that's what the whole movie is about. It's bonkers. All right. In the big picture, it's like a D+, so a 4 out of 10. And then I felt all bad about giving it a 4 out of 10, but I went to go check on it. When I put in my 4 out of 10 on IMDb, I think I gave it a 5 out of 10. I was pretty generous because it's so memorable that you can talk about it or make YouTube videos about it or whatever, but what you can't do is actually enjoy the thought behind it. It's like it's a dumb... Do not spoil the surprise ending of Malignant. Your friends will be suddenly dumber. If it's the type of thing you want to check out, it's currently in the theaters, but it's also playing on HBO Max. Maybe by the time you're watching this, it's already on HBO. I don't know. Overall, yeah, it's a recommend as far as being able to talk with people about how damn ridiculous it is. But in the big picture of life and the big picture of movies, it's a real... You gotta be kidding me. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about this movie. If you're the type of person who's like, I'm not gonna see this stupid thing, just go ahead and tell me what the secret ingredient is. I'm dying to know. Then from here on is when spoilers shall occur. The missing ingredient is freaking Basket Case. Or even worse, like Stephen King's The Dark Half. Like, she had a conjoined twin that was in the back of her head and along her neck. So when they cut the malignant monster thing out of the back of her head, what was left they couldn't cut out without killing her because it was attached to his brain. So they just pushed it into her skull. So that's why we've been getting The Grudge. Like the monster, whenever we see it, is like this just this ball of hair and it's like twisty and turny and it moves like, a monster out of a Japanese horror movie. but except it's like an action adventure monster from a Japanese horror movie. So it's running, except it's doing the like creepy backward spider twist roll and everything. And you're just, at this point, your mind is like, I can't believe they did this conjoined twin thing. And the way this monster fights, I'm like fascinated by this movie, but I'm so mad at them for insulting my intelligence like this. When it all wraps up, like of course how it does, it's total sequel bait. Like the dude even says at the end, the monster's like, I'll be back, like freaking Skeletor or something. And the lady's like, I know, and I'll be waiting for you. Like, I almost feel like this movie was James Wan doing a self-parody, but after the Aquaman movies, I don't believe that. Like, I think he believes this is the most schlocky thing ever made. And I'd like to believe that it's on purpose, but I don't believe it's on purpose. Like this is, okay, these people live in this giant Victorian house and they live in Seattle. And up in the attic, there's like this whole Saw thing going on where the monster lives. And there is a huge cutout in the top of the roof with a huge industrial fan, like an exhaust fan. Like everyone has in their Victorian home in Seattle. You guys are going to freeze to death in the winter. What the hell? But it looks cinematic. And everything in this movie looks cinematic. It's just stupid. Like, it's offensive how ignorant it treats me. And that's, yeah, I guess those Saw movies were like that as well. But other than the bonkers conjoined twin being the secret killer thing, this movie was terrible. It was barely a 3. But yeah, people are going to talk about this. Did you see that damn Malignant movie? For a while. And I mean, I think that's why I bumped it up from a 4 to a 5. But it's this, like, there's no hidden messages. There's nothing to take from this. There's no like, this, you know what I think what they're really saying here is there's none of that. Like, this is just all the crap thrown at the screen at once. I think the main problem with this movie was actually that it was directed by James Wan. It's so schlocky as well as being so gross in some parts that it needed a director more like, I don't know, like Rob Zombie or something. When's the last time anybody said that? You know what this movie needed was Rob Zombie. But that's what this movie needed. There's just so much horror and grossness from 80 different directions that somebody with that, mentality would work better for this movie. This movie just feels like bad soap opera with, like, it's in the same wheelhouse as Orphan, except Orphan was kind of a bit better than this. I thought Orphan was more enjoyable, but that's the level it's at. You'll talk about it with people, but you won't recommend it to anybody. All right, I'm out of here. Peace out, dog.